his hands, he has 4 seconds to get it back in play. So the game is constantly moving. It's very, very difficult to waste any time. You can sub your players in and out at any time. There's a designated area on the court that the players have to leave and enter. A player cannot enter the court until another player has come off, but you can make rolling subs. So when a player comes off, he can sit, he can rest, catch his breath, and go back on, because you have to imagine that for maybe 90 seconds to 2 minutes, you're going flat out. There's just no rest. Transitions from attack to defense, from defense to attack. The positions are constantly rotating. 1 second, you may be winning the ball in the defensive third of the court. But, 2-3 seconds later, you're attacking. So constant transitions. That's part of the excitement of the game.
Mm-hmm. And before you move on, Pete, it seems as if you had some problems in the beginning. So let me just reintroduce you, right? Mm-hmm. Listeners, we are speaking with Peter Rickards. He actually born and bred in Bermuda in the Caribbean. Yeah. He has a group or an academy that's strictly geared towards futsal. So we are just getting into about futsal, what it's all about. And so Peter was going over the fact that the size pitch, 40 by 20, the goals are similar to handball, small goals. It's a five-a-side game, which includes a goalkeeper, right? So take it from there, Pete. So five-a-side game, how many players are you allowed on match day?
I don't think there's any regulations, really. We've taken as many as 14 away when we travel, but, I think an ideal size would be 12. You don't want too many players sitting on the bench, so you usually travel with a reserve goalkeeper and plenty of players that can interchange positions and sub in and out. You have to be careful of your injuries, but also your fatigue.
But at the international level, Pete, at the international level for tournaments, wouldn't there be a cap? I think maybe like 10, 12 players.
I believe it's 12. Yeah, I believe at 12. International level you have to cap it at 12 on a match day.
Right. And for people who have just joined in, welcome to OTS Live. Sorry for the mishap at the beginning. We have internet problems. Hopefully we'll go through the entire program without any hitches, and you'll get a better idea what futsal is all about. Because Pete, I was surprised that I've been to places where nobody knows anything about futsal. In these times, that they know nothing about futsal. I found that really, really interesting, because futsal is there's a World Cup, there's a playoff in the Caribbean through CONCACAF. Yeah. It's a game that all the top players, Ronaldo, Denilson, all those players came through futsal as young people, Ronaldinho. And I found it a little strange. And this is why I think that having a show like this is it's very informational, good information, I should say. And I really want them to become aware of the benefits of futsal. So I want to get into that a bit now. Futsal, you've been around futsal. I coached futsal, right? I know the benefits of it. You were talking about the ball. Ball doesn't bounce. It's a no bounce ball. And I think that keeps the ball on the ground more often. It rises a bit, it gets up a bit, but in a normal circumstance, it doesn't bounce up off the ground. No. Size 4, size 3 ball, depending on the age. And it's a heavier ball. It's a heavier ball than a regular size 4 ball that you use in regular football. So from a technical standpoint, how important do you think it is that we should incorporate futsal in our training at a young age?
I think at the young age it's absolutely vital. If we were to base our method of development on, say, the Brazilians, and I use the Brazilians as an example because on my travels to Florida, I was fortunate enough to speak with Rodrigo Nunes, who at the time was the technical director of Flamengo, who produced some of the absolute best footballers in the world. At the time, they had just sold Vinicius Jr. to Real Madrid for over 30 million euro. And he was telling us that would help to sustain the entire club for the next several years. He was telling me that as soon as players come into the club from, say, age 6, 7, 8 years old, up until the age of 10, 11, they do nothing but futsal.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 sessions a week training, nothing but futsal. Once they reach 10, 11, they start to introduce football. So 2 futsal sessions a week, 2 football sessions a week. So imagine now, you know yourself the benefits of the technical side of the game, more touches on the ball, you know, the speed of movement, being able to play under pressure within tight areas, the confidence that the game instills in the young player. So imagine now having a foundation of futsal from 6, 7, 8 up to 10, 11 years old. And then you're introduced to football. You're outside on a big field. You're playing with more players. The space and the time that you must feel like you have on the ball now playing football as opposed to futsal in a smaller area under more pressure with less time to react and make a decision. I mean, that's why the Brazilians look so brilliant. They're our near neighbors. You know, Central and South America, futsal is very, very popular. So why can't we institute that throughout the Caribbean? I think it's a no-brainer. I think physically we're similar in size to the Central and South Americans. You know, I've been over here in Europe for several months now, and I'm 5'10", and I'm considered short. Whereas in the Caribbean, you know, I'm not tall, but I'm like the average size man. Over here in Europe, Europeans are 6'1", 6'2". That's average size. So why would we try and take a European style of football? I mean, you know, speaking on Bermuda specifically, I'll speak to where I'm from. We used to model our style of football on the English for decades. Why? When we're not that physically sized people, we don't have the strengths and the fundamentals that they do. You know, I feel that throughout the Caribbean, our strengths are our creativity, our speed, and the way we express ourselves on the ball. We have fun on the ball. It's part of the culture. You know, the music, the food, the sunshine. You know, I'm missing the sunshine. Look how pale I am living in England for the past year and a half. So, you know, it's a cultural thing. So why can't we institute that throughout the Caribbean? Because I think it would absolutely suit us perfectly for the style of football that we enjoy. We're entertainers, just like the South Americans.
Yeah, and I find that I mean, being exposed to futsal, having coached the game, and any game that you come up on without experience, when you get to know the game and you realize the benefit speed, it's a different ball game completely. When I look at there was a promotion that Ronaldinho was involved with. I'm sure you have seen that tape before. And you see these young kids in these little areas in Brazil, almost like an auditorium. But these are popular areas in Brazil. They have them all over. And they're playing. You look at these kids and the way they manipulate the ball, their control, their close control, and they're play. You see, the beauty about futsal also is played in tight areas. So it's speed of play, you know, speed of thought, those things come into effect right there. And this is what we want players to do, even in the big game. You know, think quickly, make quick decisions, manipulate the ball in wisely. You know, so these are areas I think that, as you said, is a no-brainer. Why aren't we looking at that? We have a lot of courts, basketball courts, in the countries. You know, I just say we can even go outside. I know in say for instance, Bahamas have futsal courts, which is an outdoor court right beside their beach soccer field. You know, so it can happen. Why do you think that there's an aversion to the game? If there is.
Yeah, if there is, I'm not sure how to answer that question. I don't think there should be, first of all. That's a difficult question to answer. I'll draw back to your reference to Ronaldinho, because he said that a lot of the moves that he makes in football, he owes to futsal. Now, if you Google that clip that you're talking about, he's actually playing for his boyhood team, Grêmio. I think he's maybe 10, 11 years old.
If that
Yeah, they fast forwarded, 15, 16 years to when he was playing for Barcelona. He was doing the exact same moves for Barcelona as he's doing in that futsal clip for Gremio. So that should be your advertisement right there for the benefits of futsal as it applies to football. Now, of course, he's one of the great entertainers. But like I said, I think that's in our DNA. I think that's in our culture in the Caribbean. We love to show off. We love to put on a show, and we're good at it. So why not take that lifestyle, that joy of life, and translate it to the futsal court? Now, there's no excuse why we can't implement it because, like you said, the facilities are there. The majority of the schools already have a gymnasium. Right. So it's not like we need to invest millions and millions of dollars in infrastructure. We have the gymnasiums right there at the schools, at the sports clubs, at the social clubs, at the community clubs. Yeah. So there's no reason that we can't make an investment in the game just as far as a few futsal balls. But I think it's vital also that the coaches are educated so that we're given the proper instruction and we're not doing football inside a sports hall, inside a basketball court. It has to be proper futsal, and therein the game does differ. It is a bit different from football. Your first touch, your heel is down and your toe is up. So you take your first touch with the sole of the foot. Now, a lot of football coaches would disagree with that, but watch a clip of Neymar controlling the ball for Barcelona or for PSG. Right. A lot of times his first touch is with the sole of the foot. Now, if you have a player, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Pete. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, the way the game is now at the adult level, at the professional level, if you have a player fizzing a pass into you at 100 miles an hour and your first touch is poor, you're going to lose that ball because you're under pressure. Now, if you can stop that ball with the sole of your foot, that player coming running into you, you can use his momentum against him. So you take your first touch sole of the foot, you move the ball away, he's not able to stop his press. So you take that first touch into space and you're away. So those are the technical skills, but that's what we need to teach the young players, not to take football inside and be playing football inside a gym, but let's teach proper futsal.
Yeah, and I tell you, getting back to the sole of the feet, because that was something new to me in futsal, but not in the game. And I now put both back together. Why? Is that a forward with his back to goal, with the defender in his back, is the easiest way to receive that ball under the sole and keep it away from the defender. I saw that happen, then I never realized that's a skill set that came from futsal. That was used by these players. Not all forwards do that, no. But if you realize, Ronaldinho does that a lot. If you're coming on to him and you're in his back, he's going to do that futsal move with the sole of the feet. And I think that is something that a lot of top forwards, our up and coming forwards, should learn. How do I keep the defender from coming at me and getting that ball? Because a lot of them will control that ball close to them. Where oftentimes a defender can reach around and get that ball. But you lean back, you hold that ball under the feet, under your sole of your foot, and it's a different ball game completely. So I think there are things in there, as you say, talk about improving technical skills. They may not see it as, I look at it this way, Pete, as a small-sided game within a game, the real game. And if you and if you look at how these clubs play right now, they'll go and they are 5v3 in an area of the pitch, and they'll be knocking that ball one touch, quickly moving around. And I think young players can get that from just being involved in playing game of futsal. And you take it what they call rondo.
Yeah.
If you look at futsal in a certain era, that's replicating a form of rondo. Yeah. And it's always about moving and moves and all that. A lot of thing in football comes in with rotation. In this futsal, comes with rotation. And if you listen to these people talk nowadays, it's all about rotation in the midfield and rotation here. So this I see as a good way. Schools. What do you think in schools? PE, physical education classes. What do you think how do you think that we could incorporate futsal there?
Sure, that I can speak to that quite easily because we do that at home in Bermuda. We're actually in 3 schools now. So we take students mostly for after school classes. But it's, it's within the school. It's still the school students themselves. So our youngest is 4 years old. And like I said, taking them and giving them those futsal skills when they do translate out to football, because they've played in a gymnasium, no matter what your surface is like outdoors, even the best 3G and 4G pitches, it's not going to move as fast as it does on a highly polished wooden floor. So that's your speed of play right there. The way you receive the ball, as you spoke, with your heel down and your toe up and your shielding your ball and your reaction time. All of those technical skills definitely translate to the game. Now, one of my favorite stories to share, and anyone that's viewing that's familiar with me will recognize this. We had a young man come to us in our very first school program at 4 years old. He did nothing but futsal until he was 9. And then his dad spoke with me and said, look, he wants to play football. Can you recommend a club? I sent him to one of the local clubs. The first game, at the end of the game, the coach called me on the phone and, Pete, what have you done? What have you sent me? I was like, oh, please don't tell me that this young man, I really had no fear of bad behavior or anything, but I was just, that little bit of worry. What went wrong? He said, look, his team won 12-0. He scored all 12 goals.
You're kidding me.
All 12 goals. I mean, he said he was picking the ball up from the goalkeeper. 1-2 with his midfielder transitioning into attack. 1-2 again, go. Now, obviously this is a 9-10-year-old boy, so you kind of take that with a grain of salt. What was his opposition like? But that's one of the success stories that I really enjoy. That's always going to stick with me. And, his dad to this day gives credit to the futsal development.
What we are trying to do, I am involved with the Caribbean Football Coaches Association. And you and I had a conversation about that.
Yeah.
Because through the association, I want to put some more emphasis on futsal in the region. Work along with the MAs, the member associations in CONCACAF and Caribbean Football Union, to see if we can put some interest, get some courses. Years ago, when I did a futsal course, it was through FIFA, and it was some time ago. And I'm not seeing that sort of a input anymore. Maybe I'm not sure, but from my recollection, I'm not seeing many courses recently. Yes, COVID is one such thing, but even before that, it's just like when I did beach soccer, and I knew nothing about beach soccer until I did a course, and I realized it's a wonderful game, it's an entertaining game, just like futsal. I think futsal now in schools is ideal because they're indoors. They have gyms. Once you have a gym, they go indoor, and I'm sure that a lot of girls would prefer indoor playing futsal because you're not going to tumble and cut their knees and that type of threats that are outside.
Right.
So I think it's a way of getting the game rolling within the Caribbean through the Coaches Association, getting courses up and running, and have them get an interest in promoting the game in their own country. I think ideal for schools as small-sided games. It's a confined area. It's a area where there are no threats there. Falling over on stones we in the Caribbean, and I'm sure it's the same way in Bermuda, in Jamaica, in St. Kitts, in St. Lucia, any part of the world, in Africa.
Yeah.
You have fields that becomes a threat to players. So if you can get them in a safe environment, in a gymnasium where they can play the game, the ball doesn't get in the air where it's going to hit them in the face, and they can't just kick the ball like that and hurt someone. Yeah. It's more confined to the floors. I really believe that's something that we should push, Pete, through your academy also. There's nothing wrong with you. You're established in Bermuda, as we discussed earlier. There's some collaboration here that should be there, you know. So no, you have been to different places with futsal, international tournaments, and you say your club oftentimes go away, and get involved. Give me, you have seen best, you have seen mediocre, you have seen the difference. How far away are we from being where we can compete, you think? Based on your own, not to bring down your academy, but we are talking about Caribbean players.
Sure.
And we are sort of juxtaposing against people in Brazil and Spain, because Spain is a world champion right now, aren't they? I think they are. Argentina. Okay.
Yeah. Spain were the champions. Argentina were the champions.
Were champions. But I was reading something recently, as a matter of fact, where over 30,000 people watch this thing, some futsal a week sometimes in these places.
Right? Sure. Yeah.
So it's really, and that's because they play a lot of importance to that, Pete.
It's broadcast live in countries like Portugal, Spain, Brazil. You know, they have dedicated sports channels that show the games live. So there's a tremendous following all throughout South America and Europe. Some of the biggest clubs have well-recognized futsal programs. Barcelona, Inter Movistar, who are associated with Atletico Madrid, Benfica, Sporting Lisbon. You know, all these clubs have tremendously well-supported futsal programs. Sporting Lisbon are the current European champions, and Portugal are the current European, countrywide Euros champions. And we were fortunate enough to host the coach of Portugal in Bermuda for the Atlantic Futsal Conference in February 2020. So I would suggest, as far as growing the game throughout the region, like you said, collaboration, use CP Athletic Development to help you to attract the best people to the region. Right. Because we've hosted these people, I wanted to learn. So I went where the best were doing it, which I found would be initially the World Futsal Championships at a youth level. Taking our youth development players there, we were able to play against the likes of Barcelona. We were able to play against the likes of Rio de Janeiro, tremendous clubs, So, I mean, you watch, you learn, you take it on board, you follow what people are doing to a higher level than you. You talk to those people. The futsal community, I found, is very, very helpful. They're willing to teach you. They're willing to show you. They're willing to assist you. I've had some tremendous assistance along the way, from the U.S. national program to the professional futsal league in the U.S. A coach that I've met who's actually a Spanish national, he opened the doors for me in Spain. I was able to spend time with Inter Movistar, who at the time were the Champions League winners of futsal. They have that over in Europe. So they were like the UEFA champions of futsal. So I was able to spend time with them. Ricardinho, the Portugal player, I'm sure you've heard of him. Tremendous talent. To be able to see him play live, the things that he can do with a ball. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I think we do need to bring it to the region. And if we're not able to travel due to the COVID situation now, bring the best into us, That CP Athletic Development Academy help the Caribbean region with that. Let's learn, let's grow, because we have so much to offer. We're already producing some of the best track and field athletes in the world, as the recent Olympic Games showed. So why not produce some of the best footballers through a foundation of futsal?
Right, and you see, and that's when you really focus on a particular sport. Like Jamaica, for instance, is track and field. Football is some people say football is our number one sport, but it's our number one sport throughout the year. But when it comes on the track and field, that's our number one area, But you said something about, and I want to get back to that, about about a tournament. That's dedicated to youth, youth tournament. That I never knew. I'm focusing on the higher level, and I'm sure you taking your boys and girls there, Pete. They might lose by a big margin, but it's not about that. And I try to tell people a lot of times, it's not about you losing. It's not about the losses of and getting 8 and 10. It's about what the youngsters are exposed to at that time to see the level that they can get at. And just like any other thing, when they witness a move, they want to go back home and try that move. And that's how they learn. If we are to stay in the Caribbean where it is at one level, there's no learning, there's no improvement. We think we'll win and we think we're doing well until we are exposed to the next level. And this is what I want. I definitely going to have a collaboration with you for sure, 100% certain of that, because we want to make sure that we have athletes in the Caribbean, natural athletes, and you have some players who will not have the. We are taught to play 11v11. Just like you see some of these guys that do these technical skills. What do you call? I remember you call that now. They do the skill flicking balls and catching on in their legs and carrying over. They can't play football.
Yeah.
But they specialize in those type of tricks. You know, Edmund Robinson from who listening says official games are broadcast on FIFA YouTube channel. So thanks Edmund. You know, but welcome Juliet Alvarenga from Jamaica, and I want to welcome all guests who have just joined. We're speaking to Peter Rickards from CP Sports Group, and we're going to talk to him about his academy some more. But we are discussing futsal. If you're just joining us, and it's about us trying to sensitize the region or whichever country that has no idea what futsal is all about. We might have some. I know I have some African followers from Africa that might not be exposed to it. So if you're just joining us, we are all about futsal today, a game that the best players, some of the best players in the world, came up through that game, that development process. You know, you look at Ronaldinho play. You Google Ronaldinho right now, you would say exactly what he was doing as a young child, 9, 10, and 11 years old, and other players. That this game went back as far as Pele. Pele used to play this game, you know, because it was actually founded in 1930. I guess the game was being played, Pete, from my research, and there was just this one coach who did it in a gym, and then the Brazilians were playing street football. And then they decided, hey, this thing is going well. Let us come together and form an association. So it is a wonderful game. Those of you who are on here have not seen the game, go Google futsal. Just put in futsal. You have any trouble finding videos on it, right? But what we're concentrating on right now is having Pete tell us his experience, give us some of his experience. See if we can get that. I'm speaking specifically now for the Caribbean region, how we can collaborate with Football Coaches Association, Caribbean Football Coaches Association to get it here. And also, when we come towards the end, I'll be providing Pete's email address. You can contact him. He'll be willing to give you and give you some tips on how to get involved and also reach out to him where he can help you. So, all right. So let's get back to the real deal now, Pete. So we have the game running. We have futsal. Talk about the equipment that is needed to play the game. What do we need?
Sure. Well, you need a facility first and foremost. A gym, preferably wooden floor, maybe a rubber floor. And regulation size is 40 by 20, so 40 feet long by 20 feet wide. Your goals are 6 feet high by 9 feet wide, and the balls, the younger age groups usually use the size 3s, and the older age groups use the size 4. The proper futsal ball, like we talked about, no bounce. Your equipment very similar to a football player. You need your shin pads, you need your kit, your socks have to cover your pads. I think the major difference in your kit is going to be your shoes. Similar to sneakers, the strong rubber bottom, a proper futsal shoe will have a strip of rubber that comes up and covers your toes. And the reason being is that when you shoot with your toe.
Toes, right.
That seemed totally foreign to me when it was first introduced to me. But the amount of power and direction you can generate hitting the ball with your toe is absolutely amazing. And the benefit is that you don't have to draw your foot back to hit the ball. You can poke the ball with your toe in mid-stride, and the majority of the time, the goalkeeper never sees it coming. Now, the first time I remember seeing this, now I'm going to date myself a bit, Vin, but you might remember this yourself,
I remember exactly what you were going to say. Go ahead.
The World Cup in the US in, what was it, 1984? And Romario, the Brazilian striker, he would score goals with a little toe poke. And I was like, man, what is this? What is he doing? And maybe a decade later, I found out. But, that's when they were doing futsal back then. I mean, okay, that's the 90s. It's been around since the 30s in South America.
Ronaldo did it too. Ronaldo did it too.
Yeah. I think it was the Champions League goal against Chelsea. Barely drew his foot back, toe poke in the net. And, and the world's kind of looking like, man, what is going on here? But so, yeah, proper futsal shoes. You'll have a strong strip of rubber that comes up to protect your toe. And that's the reason. But otherwise, like we said, there's very, very little investment needed to get a futsal program running, equipment-wise, as long as you have a facility away you go. I'd just like to go back a bit to when you talked about international exposure. Now, the international competition that we take our youth players to, the World Futsal Championships, usually held in Orlando, Florida. That's very, very easily accessible for our Caribbean friends. Quite easy to get to Orlando, quite reasonably price-wise. And the reason I bring that up is because CP Athletic is actually the representative for the Caribbean region for this tournament. So, the last one, I should say 2019, I believe, was canceled due to COVID. Maybe it was 2020 was canceled due to COVID. But we had interest from teams from Haiti, from Trinidad. So the game is definitely growing in popularity. Now, the benefits are that young men and young women from as young as, I think the youngest age group is under 7, and it goes right up to adult men and women.
At the championships?
At the championships, yeah. You're looking at 150 teams. 150 teams from all over the world. You get teams from as far away as Australia and Indonesia. You get teams coming over from Europe. You get teams from all over the US, all over Central America. The Brazil especially is very, very well represented. And the skill that you will see from these Brazilians, I mean, wow, it's tremendous. We've been there 7 times, I think it was. The very first year we went, futsal was fairly new to us. So we met a Brazilian team our second match. They beat us 17-0. So like you said, learning experience.
What age group was that? What age group?
This was U12s.
Okay.
So we actually had a U12 team, but we entered it in the U14 division on purpose for the experience, because we wanted to kind of keep that team together and keep entering the U14 division until they were old enough to actually age-wise be in that division. So fast forward 7 years, we actually played that same program in the final. Our team actually made it to the final. And at halftime, it was 1-0 to the Brazilians. Second half started, we equalized. We equalized 1-1. You could have heard a pin drop in the stadium. This little team from Bermuda is not supposed to be holding Rio de Janeiro. They eventually ran out 4-1 winners, but at the end of the match, I was speaking to the coach, and the coach was saying, look, we were listening to you on the sidelines. The instructions that you are given are absolutely spot on, but it's just that your players are not able to execute. He said, just keep working and it will come. It will come. But
maybe they had a better bench than you two. That's rotate.
I'll tell you what, I can't say it's a funny story, but it's a story I'll share all my life as well. At halftime, we were giving our little talk to the players on the sidelines, and the Brazilian fans started throwing coins at us. So after the match, they had to call security and clear the floor and everything. So after the match, I was asking the coach, and he said, "Look, as difficult as that may have been to take, don't take it as disrespect. We were genuinely worried. This, like I said, this little team from Bermuda is not supposed to be holding a team from Brazil. So said when we first went, that same gentleman, like I said, he beat us 17-0. The next year we went back, he beat us 16-0. So I talked to him after the game. I said, look, I'm going to keep coming back year after year. And 17 years from now, it's going to be 0-0. We're going to keep learning. We're going to keep working. So, he kind of laughed it off. But, like I said, these are the kind of people you meet. These are the experiences you have. And this is how you learn the game.
Of course. This is new to me. I didn't know of the World Futsal Championship at all.
Yeah.
And that is good. That is good to know. Let me ask you something about that championship.
Sure.
How many games are teams guaranteed to play when they get there? Apart from the if you get there, like you're in final, just a team wants to go. Doesn't necessarily have to be a team from a country. Doesn't have to be a national team. It could be someone who was an academy like yourself.
Yeah, it can be a club team.
Apart from the airfares and things that we have to come up against. What are they guaranteed like 4 games, or because I know the tournament, and I'll get into that a little bit, but just that. Sure. Your entry fee, I know they're always that. Mm-hmm. And are there prizes or just medals, or what? Give me something about the tournament. I want the listeners to hear that.
Sure. So the structure is that you go into a 4-team group. So you play each team within your group. So you're guaranteed 3 group games. Mm-hmm. At the end of your group matches, first place goes into like a first place group. So they'll go into another group of 4 against all the first place teams. They call that the gold division. So you have your gold, your silver, your bronze, and I believe they call the 4th place group copper. Mm-hmm. So you go into another group of 4, and then your first match is a semifinal. And then if you make it to the final, you play the final, but you will play a 3rd and 4th place playoff game. So you're guaranteed 5 games.
Oh,
and this is spread over the course of maybe 4 or 5 days. Mm-hmm. They do an absolutely brilliant opening ceremony. The last year we went, Roberto Carlos was actually the guest of honor. So it's tremendous to see him there. And I think it was his daughter was actually involved in the tournament. So like I said, you go into this 4-team group, you're guaranteed your 3 group games, and then your semifinal and your final. If you're not fortunate enough to make it to the final, you play your 3rd and 4th place playoff game. As far as awards, the first 3 teams in the gold division get an actual trophy, which is absolutely massive. And then the silver, bronze, and copper division, they get medals. So you're taken into a kind of a ceremony, and your group picture in front of the photographers and everybody. It's really, really professionally done. The level of competition is absolutely tremendous, and you'll learn and you'll experience so much within that. I think it's about a 5-day tournament. So you do your opening ceremony, then the next day you'll have 2 games, and then another game, then your semi-final and final, and your prize presentation.
So I remember you saying that you are the rep in the Caribbean, CP Athletic Academy.
Yeah, for the Caribbean region.
For the Caribbean region. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? If I from say St. Lucia, Jamaica, St. Kitts want to enter the competition, I would go through CP Sports.
So what you would do if let's say you're from Jamaica and you were interested in attending the tournament, you can contact the tournament directly, but then they will direct you to us. And then we have staff that will guide you through the entire process, from interest right through to registration, right through to meeting you when you actually arrive in Florida, get you registered at the facility. So, you're kind of dealing with somebody that you're familiar with, another island person, somebody you can relate to. So that's the service that we provide, from having been to the tournament for, like I said, maybe 7 out of the 9 years.
Mm-hmm. And then, so you can recommend, your company then would recommend hotels, and saying that, are there packages that they would get for hotels and food and things like that?
Yes, that's all arranged through the actual company itself. That's all listed on their website. Usually they have it at a Disney property. So you usually stay at one of the Disney hotels, and then you get your transportation, etc., all included in the price of the tournament itself.
Okay. And if I pity I did not know that, because so the email that I'm going to be putting up shortly, they could reach you through that.
Sure.
My people are on here, right?
Sure.
So yeah. Let me just remind them who I know your name is there, but I know we had a serious problem at the beginning, Pete. A real serious problem where we just didn't have a chance to recover some things that I think was missed. And I told you we were having, but before we came on, you realized I was having problems with internet. But the reason you're here, because you are let's use for a better term, and maybe use a different term. You're the CEO of CP Sports Group, and under that group you have the CP Athletic Academy, Development Academy. You specialize really in futsal, and you have a vast experience. As I said, 7 years going to a tournament and then traveling around the world to see futsal shows your dedication to the sport, which, to be honest with you, you might be the only person in the Caribbean, I don't know, but I think that you might be, that has shown this kind of interest in the sport, which is, I love the sport. I would encourage anyone here to get in touch with your association in your country, and push them to get this as a sport. If you're with a school, if you're with a club, get an arm of futsal going in your club. It's a wonderful way to get these youngsters and girls especially now involved in the sport. And I would encourage them now to look at World Futsal Championship. I'm going to push that through the Caribbean Football Coaches Association, and it is important that we do. I can't go away without showing this, because you know this gentleman.
Oh yes, definitely.
You know him, right? Now
that's how you and I were introduced. Good man.
Yeah. He's my good friend in London. So he's into that. So he introduced me because he thought that us talking would make would be good, and it's true. We did. I had an interest in it because as somebody who has coached the game, futsal, never got into it like you, Pete, and I never even knew that there was this thing in Bermuda. I never heard it. I have interacted with Bermuda. I've interacted with the technical directors, their president, but I never knew that there was such an academy in the Caribbean, and I'm pleased to know that. And as I said to Everton, when Everton called me, you know that because I spoke to you the same day.
Yeah,
it is important that we realize that futsal is an avenue to really get young players going, and also to get them interested in the game. You go with most islands right now, and other countries who can't afford it are using size 5 balls for 8-year-old and 9-year-old, and it's not easy for them to get around the field, that way. They have to have boots. They have to have all kinds of things that are sometimes uncomfortable to them.
Yeah.
You put a child in a what you call that's a futsal boots, but it's almost similar to a sneaker. It's quite comfortable. All right. So opportunities. This is an area I think that we should definitely look at, because we look at track and field, we get scholarships. We look at football, we're getting contracts in clubs. Are there any opportunities coming out of futsal for young players within the region that you think maybe at a level, but don't know of anywhere that they can go? Are there opportunities around?
I would say that there have been plans for quite a while to institute a professional league in the U.S. I don't know that that's gotten off the ground as yet, but that's obviously right on our doorstep. So that's a tremendous opportunity if and when that does roll around. But as far as football goes, if we are going to institute this throughout the Caribbean, and we do start to develop a generation raised on futsal, we're only going to produce better footballers. And if we have that strength of technical skill, that's going to translate into what they're looking for over here in Europe. And I base that comment on another player that we had come through our academy. He was with us for 5 years. He came in at age 9, and he's recently joined a top-level football school here in England. He's 14 years old. He's only about 5'2", 5'3" tall. So he's not going to stand up to the physicality that you might find in these football schools, in these football academies. But his technical skill is such that he doesn't have to rely on a physical side to his game. He takes his first touch and he takes it into space, so he avoids these tackles. He plays with speed, which he himself said he learned from playing futsal. So the overly physically over-aggressive player can't catch him because he makes his decision as and when the ball's coming to him from his futsal background. So if we can, like I said, if we can put that in place and start to grow a generation throughout the Caribbean raised on futsal, when they do get to the age where they want to look at an education, sport, football opportunity here in Europe or in the US, they're the stronger technical player. They're the ones that are going to get recognized by the coaches, by the technical directors, by the schools in the US that might be offering scholarships.
Yes,
that's the benefits. Those are the opportunities, and we really push that. As opposed to maybe a professional opportunity, we push the opportunity of education through sport. So if we can develop better athletes, better sportsmen, better sportswomen, and from my experience raised on futsal, that's only going to benefit us and provide us better opportunities.
Yeah, and doing the research, I realized that there are professional leagues in Russia, Portugal, Italy, Brazil. Argentina. I never knew that, Pete. I mean, now doing the research, and as I said, I was involved with the sport. Never did for long because I was a national team, a Jamaica national team. But my involvement wasn't for over a long period, so I never really got into checking out the possibilities, of what's happening in the game. But now that we decided to do this broadcast, I did some checking myself, and I was surprised because I never heard it. I was really surprised that it's almost embedded out there, with professional leagues. And I hear Asia is looking at getting involved. And when Asia gets involved in anything, it's going to blossom into something bigger. Yeah. We can then look at, I think, a good area to go with also before we even decide to go to the World Futsal Championship in Orlando is for us to do something within the Caribbean, where we have a tournament here outside of the national team tournaments. Clubs come together and it's hosted by another country. Same thing in Africa. If you have Africans, same difference. They're in an area where they can play futsal leagues there. I know in Jamaica and in the Caribbean. It was a Caribbean thing too, that we had street football. Where in Brazil, the futsal was actually originated from that, came up from street football. But it doesn't feel the same. It's not the same. It's excitement. It's excitement to it, but it's not the same. But I want to encourage all to see if we can get involved in futsal, and with your guidance in the region, I think it's something that we should look forward to.
I think I would actually disagree with you a bit there when you say it's not the same. It's very similar, and as you said, it generates the excitement. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but street ball is 3v3.
Yeah, but they weren't using futsal ball. They were using futsal ball.
Okay.
I call it futsal on the street. I said football on the street.
Yeah. So if they're already doing it, futsal should be just a natural progression. It should be something that can be put in place very, very easily. And as you said, the excitement's there. I've seen video clips of the street ball competitions, crowd itself is right on top of you. So you feel that energy from the crowd, the excitement. The game is so fast, there's so much going on that it should just be a natural fit. You know that there was a study done by UEFA. They compared the Euros that were held in 2016 to the Premier League season 2014, 2015, I believe it was. At the Euros, there were 6.5 goals scored per game compared to the Premier League. There were 2.5 goals scored per game. There were 79 attempts at goal during a futsal game at the Euros, where there are 25 attempts at goal in the Premier League, and there are 28 attempts on target at the futsal Euros, as opposed to 8 attempts on target. So that's the comparison between the games. I mean, the excitement level is there.
Yes.
To me, it should be very simple to implement it throughout the region.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, Suki's, if you see on there, Suki said the fastest development in terms of technique in my under 7 to under 10s are those who play futsal. The younger they start, the faster their technique develops.
100% agree. Most definitely.
Yeah. Suki, thanks for that comment. There another friend of mine who is saying greetings from Abu Dhabi.
Nice.
Right. I know he is Mohammed is I don't know why Mohammed doesn't say anything. I should bring on Mohammed. Thanks for coming on, Mohammed.
Yes, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Yeah. And Suki again says this is interesting because this is really the truth. You know, when we look at what Suki says here, for my players, it gives them the technique to use in small-sided games on grass.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Suki's in the UK.
Okay. So he should be, I'm sure he's very familiar with, I mean, that's absolutely massive here now, using the small-sided games for training sessions within the US. UK. I do a lot of work with football clubs here in the UK, and I use a lot of the small-sided stuff. So the surfaces that we're usually training on are the AstroTurf, the 3G and the 4G surfaces. So that's very similar in that the speed of play. So yeah, the small-sided games is definitely something we use over here, and very, very similar to futsal drills. And matter of fact, I would use the futsal drills outside on the football pitch when I'm training the different academy teams that I work with here.
Yeah, and I tell you, the benefits are, numerous. I mean, I know, and as I said, you and I were talking earlier on about why the MAs, the member associations around in Caribbean, and all over the world, why they're not looking at that as one of their main programs, in their MA, because to me it's an introduction as far as developing skills, and that should be really taken seriously. It is one of those things that I don't know. Right now, it is important that we look at that development. And the game now, Pete, is 20 minutes each half, right? 20 minutes
each half, yeah, with a stopped clock. So when the ball goes out of play, when the ball goes out of play, the clock stops.
Right.
So, there's no opportunity if you're winning to let the ball roll out of play and waste time. The clock stops. Yes. So.
And that's what I like about the game too. There's no time wasting. You have a certain amount of seconds to get the ball back in play. There are certain rules, and I would encourage listeners and people who are hearing right now to go and Google the rules of the game. Google a game and watch the game and see how interesting the game is. It's really, really something that will captivate you as a coach. As Suki said, he uses it as his main thing of developing technique with his players. Yes, Peter.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we could go back to opportunities for a second, the recent CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers that were held in Guatemala, there were only 20 teams that entered, and 4 teams got a spot in the World Cup. So that's a 20% chance that you could make the World Cup.
Definitely.
So who was it? The U.S., Costa Rica. I can't recall the other 2 teams. But, that's definitely something that I'd love to see a Jamaica qualify for the Futsal World Cup. I'd love to see a St. Lucia. I'd love to see these smaller island nations get involved.
You love to see Bermuda. Don't forget Bermuda. You love to see
Bermuda as
right
well,
there.
yeah. definitely. Bermuda as well. Yeah, we have the
You're
talent.
right there.
We have the talent,
Yes.
and we took an adult team to the World Futsal Championships a few years ago with the idea of hopefully turning that into a national program. We had 17, 18, 19-year-old young men, and we entered them in the senior men's division with the idea of growing it. Unfortunately, that just didn't take off. So many other distractions for these young men. So, we try, we keep pushing, but the opportunity is definitely there.
You see, I think what happens in the region, and MAs, is that, and for those, member association is what we call countries. The countries, associations, the football association, Jamaica Football Associations, and St. Lucia Football Association. All the associations are referred to as member associations. So forgive me if I use member association and you're not familiar with the term. But I think if they incorporated Pete in as part of their football program, instead of looking at it as a standalone program, where they have to dedicate money. I think some are very wary of dedicating funds to a program because they are not given funding for they are more interested in the football program. So they have 8 teams that they have to worry about.
Yeah.
But I think if they look at it as a part of development in their country, they'll be surprised to know how many players they get from futsal, because it's an introductory sport. Also, you can look at it that way, introduce into your communities, to the schools, right? And this is how you get players interested in the game. So I say what you're doing is wonderful in Bermuda. I know you have not been there for a while, but I'm glad I can help, or will help, to spread the word in the Caribbean. And I hope other people will be able to look at this and see, the benefits. And when you listen to what can happen, what the development of these players, Ronaldo, the Niels, all those players that are, but some are not playing now, but who came through the system. It's very interesting. And the other thing, Suki again says, yes, futsal teaches technique. Outdoor grass football always ends up being about tactics. That's a good comment from Suki right there again. It is true. When you get on the pitch, oftentimes you look more of how you move together. I think coaching courses for futsal, Pete, should be promoted right now. But give me your take on that.
I'd just like to touch on what your coach said there for a second. Yes, definitely. Futsal teaches technique, and I think you develop your technique much, much quicker as a youth using futsal as opposed to football. And he says that the outdoor grass football always ends up being about tactics. Yes, but futsal also teaches you tactics. Vin, you and I spoke earlier about the transitions from offense to defense, from defense to offense. You're always moving. You're always changing positions. So tactical, yeah. Your offensive, defensive transitions. Your movement off the ball. How you have to move. Once you play your pass, you have to move to give your teammate another option, or you have to move to draw that defender out of the way to give your teammate time and space. So maybe that's a tactical option within the game that you can use for futsal. You can break down a football field into little areas of futsal. As we spoke about the rondos. When I watch a game, sometimes you watch a Manchester City play, it looks like rondos all over the field, just in different areas.
Yeah.
You have your rondo from even your 18-yard box now. Your goalkeeper is not just booting the ball into the opposition half. He's usually playing it out with his 2 central defenders, with his 2 wide players pushing on, so that they're playing out of the area. So that's a rondo situation if you think about it. In your midfield, your Kevin De Bruyne will pick up the ball and carry it and play in his 1-2 passes throughout his midfield. And then you get into your final third. You're up against Raheem Sterling, Kevin De Bruyne coming on to support him. It's all rondos. It's all futsal type type exercises that we work on. So yeah, technical skill most definitely, but I do think you can apply the tactical side to football a bit.
And what some people might not realize also, Pete, is that in futsal, your formations that you actually play in formations, right? And 2-2, you can have, depending on the game goes, you can switch around your formation to in your. I mean, if you're comfortable with some players, but it does have a formation. It does have tactics involved. It has formation. It has particular exercises that you do, just like the real game that you can use for training. Anything else you think that's of importance that we should discuss before we close the program?
I'd like to touch on the just a kind of study that I was reading up on the other day, done way back in 2003 by Manchester United's U9 program. So they were doing 8v8. They decided to do an experiment and play 4v4 as opposed to 8v8. So they kept the numbers. I just wrote down a few of what I thought was very interesting. In the 4v4 group, they had 135% more passes than the 8v8 group. They had 260% more scoring attempts than the 8v8 group. They had 500% more goals scored, 225% more 1v1 situations, and 280% more dribbles. So what do we think is going to help to develop the player more, 4v4 or 8v8 at that age?
Well, that age, yeah. That's
so point. What's 4v4? Basically, it's futsal. Obviously, you have a goalkeeper, but it's 4 court players versus 4 court players.
Yeah.
So why not? If those kind of numbers, if a club like Manchester United can commission a study and show us those numbers, why can't we institute that throughout our region and gain the advantage on our neighbors that maybe not, are not clued into that as yet?
Yeah.
The benefits are tremendous.
Yeah, that's true. Edmond, make a point here that I want to highlight. If you can see, because my internet giving problems again.
I see it.
Yeah. In futsal, you play every position in the space of 30 to 60 seconds, and you overlap and reposition. That's an exposure and awareness in tactics.
Definitely, most definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, look at your modern day fullback. He's not just a defender. He's usually your first form of attack.
Yes.
He's pushing on the entire length of the field. And what do you transition more than in futsal? Like we spoke about, your transitions from offense to defense, from defense to offense. Happens every few seconds within the game. That's your modern day fullback, bombing on down the left and the right side to support the forwards, getting back to help out the back line.
I think that is important. Very important. Everton giving us some facts here. I don't know if
yes.
Can you see it?
Yes, I knew it was Costa Rica and the U.S. I couldn't remember the other 2 teams. So Guatemala and Panama.
In Panama. From the region, and that's important that we should be able to get one of the islands involved in this, apart from outside the regular, Costa Rica, Guatemala. I want some of the Caribbean
not just evolve, but be competitive. I'm sure that we can be competitive against these teams.
Yes, and positive.
Oh, without a doubt.
But exposure is important.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, we have to get our coaches educated. They have to buy into the process. They have to believe in the game, and they have to educate themselves, and not just educate yourself, but gain experience. You have to travel and see how those doing it better than you are doing it. You have to learn from them. You have to see it. You have to experience it. And I definitely think we can do it.
It is a wonderful conversation, Pete.
I agree.
First, I have to really apologize for my internet kicking up and carrying on. Hopefully it did not affect most of what you're seeing on the viewers.
It must be the sun and the humidity.
Must be. I have to solve it. But I think it's a wonderful conversation. I think it's something that should sort of tease the minds of all the listeners and viewers who will eventually see the broadcast. We have to do something through futsal, because futsal is something that definitely will benefit us. From this conversation, we should all come away with the fact that futsal is important to development of youngsters in our region, and anywhere you are, your club. And so before this thing freezes up on me again, Peter, I want to thank you for coming on. I really want your information was really important. I want to see if I can get this up and see if all right, there you go. So if you guys want to, anyone here wants to get in touch with Pete, that's his email address. I encourage you to do that. You can get information and also help on how to develop your own academy and how to get your program going, or also to get into the World Futsal Championship. If you think it doesn't matter if you have a top A1 team, coaches or listeners, it doesn't matter, right? The idea is to get the kids involved, to see that this is a wonderful sport and it will help them a lot. So CB Sports Group through CB Development Academy. Contact Pete. You see his name, Peter Rickards. You contact him, get in touch with him, pick his brains. I will be, for those who are familiar with football, Caribbean Football Coaches Association, CP Sports will be working along with the Caribbean Football Coaches Association to get this out into the wider Caribbean and see how much we can help national programs and schools to develop their football through futsal. Pete, once again, thank you for coming on. Thank you to my guests who have popped in, Suki, Edmund, Edward. We need to thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure being on. So thanks again, Pete.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Great speaking with you. Thank you to your listening audience. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help. I'm happy to provide any advice, any assistance, any support that you might need.
And let me not forget our dear friend, Everton.
Oh, no, we can't forget Everton. He wouldn't forgive me.
Yeah, who put us together, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Thanks again, Everton. Much appreciated. Coach Vin, thank you. Great speaking with you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity. Much appreciated.
My pleasure. It was my pleasure. Mark just came on. Mark, you're coming in late. We were leaving. Say thanks, Pete. Mark Bennett is from Jamaica. He says thanks. Suki,
sir, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Mohammed says fantastic session. Thanks, Coach.
Yes, right, thank you. Guys, thanks for joining us. Great to have you with us.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a real pleasure, Pete.
Yes, sir. I agree. Thanks again. Much appreciated.
Take care, guys.